Have you ever played a game that was so boring it actually put you to sleep? Legit, I booted this game up last night when I was having trouble sleeping, and 5 minutes later, it was the next day. This game is the equivalent of watching a person watch paint dry. It's a visual novel with horrible translations in the form of a gacha game, which is actually kind of a shame because the game itself has absolutely beautiful character models. It has some incredible music, and that's pretty much all I can say in terms of positives. So the game features you, who's like this conductor, I guess, and a variety of different waifus. I've currently unlocked quite a number of them, actually. Each waifu has their own respective soundtrack, their own music that accompanies them, which I think is actually really cool. I know Memento Mori did this as well recently. Some of them sound really peaceful, some sound really chaotic. Some are beautiful, some are dark. And as you can tell, the characters themselves are beautiful. And there's also, interestingly, they take inspiration from fairy tales. The Nutcracker, as we saw, like, I'm genuinely so sad how little I've enjoyed this game because there are so many interesting facets of it. Before I go ahead and delve into Takt Op Symphony though, I want to take a moment here to thank our incredible patrons over on Patreon. You guys allow for me to continue to record videos on new games like this every week. I cannot express how much I appreciate that. Also, if you have a moment, consider following me on Twitch, where I stream gacha games like this most weekends. Also, don't forget to check out the last episode in the Player Pass series, which I will include a link to in the end card, the description, and the pinned comment below. The game revolves around you, the conductor. I don't know if that's what we're called, but I feel like that's what we should be. It's your responsibility to navigate through, I think there are like 10 or 12 different chapters. I know you're looking at this and you're thinking to yourself, wow, Stix, you've made it through 2 chapters? And yeah, I did. That's because to progress through every new chapter, you're forced to complete other content unrelated to the chapters, unrelated to the missions. Every chapter is gated behind side content. So to continue with chapter 3, I have to clear the 2nd floor of the underground passage. Now, I had to complete the 1st floor of the underground passage to continue with the 1st chapter, the 2nd floor over here, for the 2nd like, this is a continuing thing. You have to continue to push through all of this side content. I refer to it as side content because I just feel like it's so boring, so pointless, so redundant. Like, I think it's fun being able to manually control your character. I do. I think it's fantastic being able to I think it's fantastic being So I'm not having the best of luck here, but so essentially what this content is, the side content, there are areas that you're forced to physically navigate. Each one seems to have its own mechanics. Each one seems to have its own features. This one, as you can tell, has this wind blowback effect, which can get very irritating, admittedly, when you're trying to showcase a feature. The previous one was much more straightforward. The 1st floor, that is. You could just run around, loot the little power cores, insert them in, move between rooms, fight the monsters that were available in each room. Honestly, I feel like this could have been a lot of fun if I wasn't forced into participating in it as frequently as I am. I feel like being presented with the option to tackle this at my own rate would have left me tackling this at my own rate. I would have poured 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes into it straight, completed the mission, the floors when I wanted to, and pursued the main story, continued leveling, continue unlocking, upgrading, and actually enjoying the game. But unfortunately, you're not allowed to do that. This game feels very linear. It doesn't allow for you to play the game how you want to. It doesn't allow for you to play the game when you want to. Speaking of the game, I will admit there's very little of it. Here is chapter 2.5. I know. Riveting. Here is chapter 2.6. That was chapter 2.6. This right here is chapter 2.7. You're finally given the option, after 3 whole chapters, to play the game. 3 entire chapters straight of nothing but text. And the amount of text in this game, the amount of story present in this game is horrendous. Now, the combat itself is turn-based. So you field 4 different husbandos or waifus. This game is not specific to just female characters. So you deploy 4 waifus. They have various different class archetypes. I'll get into that in a minute. And you essentially, you attack. You have various different skills. And yeah, you take turns. And that's the combat. It's admittedly a little bit underwhelming. I think that the graphics for the combat aren't the best. I don't know. I don't think they're bad. I genuinely don't think the graphical style is bad. I feel like the special effects are a little bit weak. I feel like the character models themselves are kind of lower quality than I would have expected. Like they're somewhere in between chibi and 3D, which leaves them looking like weird, really weird. I can't put my finger on it specifically. And the abilities themselves just look very basic. I don't know. It's a shame, because what little combat you're actually able to participate in is just kind of underwhelming. That's it. The long and short of it. The combat is underwhelming. The boss fights are easy. The encounters are easy. And then here's chapter 2.8, the final chapter, or the final mission, which should, in theory, present you with a big boss fight, right? Wow. And that's every chapter thus far. I know I've only done like 3, but every chapter is just here is like paragraphs worth of text. Oh, here's, 30 seconds of fighting a monster. Like, you could tell just by looking at this how little I've actually played the game versus how much I have watched the game. This feels like an anime. This feels like I'm watching an anime or watching a visual novel unfold. Now, as noted, there are a variety of different classes in the game. As an example here, Moonlight is a gunner, Carmen is a magus, Daphnis and Chloe are restorers. We have Earl King, sorry, not Urkling, who's a magus. We have Destiny, who's a blader. And then, of course, we have Jupiter the tank. Or Jupiter the warden, which is a tank. I admittedly have not gotten the second tank, which is very unusual. So, upgrading your characters functions the same way as any other game. You accumulate pieces of the character, and then you upgrade them, which upgrades their statistics. After obtaining 90 pieces for Moonlight, she'll be upgraded from a 2-star to a 3-star character. Her stats will be boosted. You have a variety of different skills. You have physical skills. Well, she specifically has debuffs, physical skills. You have mages that have magical skills. You have the scale system, which effectively allows for you to farm crystals that you then use to upgrade your character's statistics. There are memories, which are essentially like equipping another piece of gear. I haven't unlocked the harmony feature yet. It says I unlocked that at level 18. Currently, my characters are only capable of progressing to level 10, but that's because I'm only level 10, and I'm only level 10 because honestly, you progress really fucking slowly in this game. I like that you have the ability here to navigate the world. You can run around inside the side content. You can run around inside the chapters. In what little of them you actually possess control of. You have various different husbandos and waifus that you collect that actually inhabit this area, which is really cool. It adds a lot of life. It adds a lot of story. It adds a lot of purpose to actually running around, seeing your characters all moving around, being able to talk to them, interact with them, seeing it slowly populate is honestly something I don't typically see. Like in gacha games, you have your group of characters and they're all just like in a separate window, but they don't physically exist. Here they do. In this game, they actually exist. You can see them, you can interact with them. I feel like more games need to do this. You have bases. In all these different games that you play, you can't actually navigate around the base, find the characters, and talk to them. This is something they do right, and admittedly, they don't do a lot right. The gacha is kinda shit. I have gotten a grand total of almost nothing. I have gotten almost no pulls whatsoever. I think I've made 30 total in 3 chapters in about 5 or 6 hours of playing. And I think 20 of those pulls were given as rewards for the pre-registration goals being met. Now, it does say that you do obtain a max rarity unit after hitting 75. Oh, actually, it says I've successfully pulled 50 times out of 75. Okay. Well, there we go. It was 50, not 30. But after 75 draws, you successfully obtain a 3-star character. But obtaining the currency to actually do the rolls to make it to 75 pulls is another question entirely. The requirements behind actually obtaining a max rarity unit are lower than most gacha games, so I will give them credit for that. Outside of that, you have a variety of different rooms that you can run between. Each room seems to possess its own functionality, side content, interacting with NPCs, but for the most part, that's really all there is to it. This game is admittedly very basic. I feel like there isn't a lot to it. It's such a beautiful game until you get into the combat, and then it's kind of very basic looking, very underwhelming looking and feeling. But the characters themselves all look absolutely stunning. The soundtrack, the music for the game is incredible. The combat is slow. It doesn't look very good aesthetically, and being forced to participate in the battle simulation to clear all this content that just feels so boring. Having the story itself, all progression gated behind such a boring feature, left me wanting to stop playing after like 4 or 5 hours. If you cannot find enjoyment in a game after 4 or 5 hours, then the game, subjectively, not objectively, subjectively, to me, to you, is not good. I don't think Takt Op Symphony is the kind of game for me. I think there are a lot of other game releases this year that are a lot better than this. Maybe not many that look as good as this, but that definitely play better, don't gate my progress, and have more in terms of gameplay that I enjoy. Now, if Takt Op Symphony is not the kind of game for you, then absolutely no problem. I got you covered with 2 different videos on screen right now that might be of more interest to you.